Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel. Time for this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. And before we get into it, Gerry, anytime we got the Recruiting Breakdown here on the channel, it's brought to you by our good friend Mark Saunders.
Yeah, the longtime sponsor of the Recruiting Breakdown. Thank you to Mark Saunders, as always. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one person that protects it all, one place that protects it all? We got that person for you. That's Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders, who serves the Austin and Round Rock area in the entire state of Texas. That means he's the only insurance agent you'll need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. With more than 35 years of experience, you'll be in great hands with Texas alum Mark Saunders. Again, give him a call today, 512-218-8571. The only thing he can't help with is Georgia getting all the calls Saturday.
Got a lot to get to, not a lot of time to get it done in, so let's go ahead and get right after it. Gerry, you were on the road. Let's talk about your Monday stop as it relates to the Longhorns.
Yeah, I went out to Fort Bend Travis. Boy, that traffic is something else. 31 miles from Friendswood to Fort Bend Travis, and I may as well have driven to Dallas. But in terms of time, Josiah Vilmail is the defensive back that Texas offered on Friday. 6'1.5", about 175, 180. Missed the majority of his junior season. He was not playing when I saw Travis play Richmond Randall his junior year. He was out with a shoulder injury. Came back and put up some times on the track, 10.5s, 10.6s, in that range. And Oklahoma State, where he was originally committed, and a few others, pretty much went on blind faith of what the Fort Bend Travis head coach system told them about Vilmail plus the track times. I mean, that's pretty much where his recruitment was beginning his senior season. Then he started playing on the field, a couple interceptions, couple of returns for touchdowns, showed physicality, showed versatility. They play him at safety more than they do anywhere else. And he's just impressed people over time. And once Mike Gundy was fired, more schools came in and got in on him. He's made official visits to Arizona, Baylor, Arizona State. He has Houston on the 22nd currently and Kansas State on the 29th. I believe that we at On Texas believe that he will make an official visit to Texas on the 22nd probably, and maybe push back the Houston visit, or it gets canceled, one of the two. He also has a little brother, Josh Vilmail, who's 6'3", 175-pound defensive back on the Travis team. Texas is looking at him. Some other people like Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Arizona have already offered him. So he does have a little brother who's a slightly different prospect, not as twitchy in the 100 meters like Josiah is, but there are two of those guys at Fort Bend Travis that are getting looks from Texas. One's been offered.
CJ, I want to go a little bit closer to the Austin area. Kaden Sher, the offensive lineman from Georgetown, committed to Stanford. Texas has started showing some interest lately. CJ, what is your thoughts on Texas getting in on an offensive lineman at this point in the game?
Yeah, I like the idea. Of course, the big name that we've continued to hear, or at least monitor, has been Malachi Lee in this recruiting cycle. And look, Kaden Sher, you turn on the tape, I'm not going to say he's a spitting image of him, but you give him 50 pounds and you think, hey, maybe there's some potential to the frame there for Kaden Sher. He reminds me a little bit of Jacob Ponton coming out of Dripping Springs, where he's a senior at about 6'6", 270 pounds, 275 pounds. But you see the athleticism, right? You see his ability. He looks like a basketball player that was just put into pads and asked to go play offensive tackle. So you see the physical tools. Ponton actually right now starting as a sophomore over at Texas Tech, a top 10 team in the country. So there's some athleticism there that I like a lot for Sher. He's been committed to Stanford since June 9th, took a trip to Virginia as well. Smart kid, evidently. So look, that's one that I'll trust the Texas evaluation staff here for finding a smart kid from the area. If they want to move on them over the last month or so of the cycle, I see the understanding as to why.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times this year. Actually, I agree, CJ, with a lot of what you said. Gerry, there's something there with Kaden Sher. Where do you think this ends up going as far as Texas goes?
Well, I think Texas would take up to 2 more high school offensive linemen, and I know that's not popular for the portal warriors out there, but I do think Texas would sign 5 high school linemen if the right guys fell into their class. And with Sher, yeah, I mean, a former tight end that's kind of grown into offensive tackle. I think he'll make his official visit on the 22nd, barring a change. I think that date will get locked in here in the next 24 hours. But like CJ said, I mean, look, he committed to Stanford over Virginia and Northwestern. in Kansas State as well. But a guy who's very intelligent, Kyle Flood, went and watched him last Friday and really liked what he saw. I believe he attended a Texas home game this year. They've been tracking him for a while, but have just gotten serious here in the last few weeks.
CJ, I'll go back to you. We'll get to another big time prospect Texas has been tracking for a long time here in just a little bit. But CJ, I want to go to you on the Arkansas game. We've already talked about it a few times. Your thoughts on what that visitor list could end up looking like for that Arkansas game on the 22nd?
Well, it's going to be massive, right? This is one of the best opportunities Texas has had. Obviously, Vanderbilt, they took advantage with a number of 27s, and it should continue to do so. Gerry, you've mentioned a number of guys looking to officially visit Texas, trying to make the most out of what hasn't been a very luxurious home slate this year. Arkansas likely to be under the lights, right? It's kind of in that flex spot of 2:30 to 6 to 6:30, so it's still up in the air. But right now, that would be a great opportunity for a number of prospects to see home game at Texas, in which they don't have to battle Thanksgiving traffic or have to battle against, the holiday season as well. So that's really where I'm looking at. And again, Texas, whenever they play at home, they put on a spectacle for not just football, but for all sports. We'll see what all they're able to do in terms of across the 40 acres athletically.
Yeah.
Gerry,
Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
No, I was going to say it so you don't have to. Playoff dependent is going to be the theme of that weekend.
Yes, the playoffs start in Texas this weekend coming up. Some Thursday games, mostly Friday games. So that will be very big in the number of 2027s that are on campus. And which of these guys, like Kaden Sher via DM said, hey, it's playoff schedule dependent whether I make the OV. I think that's where everybody's at. But that's a big reason why Texas has circled this Arkansas game, because of that flex schedule that CJ mentioned, either 2:30 start or 6:30 start. So kids should be, if they're in the state of Texas, should be able to get to the game, even if they play a Friday game. And also this, if you're bringing in an out-of-state visitor, whether that's unofficial or official, you could catch an early Saturday AM flight and get to Austin and get over to the stadium in time. Well, I mean, I say that. We'll see on flying, right? You may just need to take a Vaughn Lane anywhere in America right now. But theoretically, a Dre Quinn who's scheduled to come in from Buford, if they have a game on Friday, theoretically you should be able to fly in Saturday morning and get to Austin in plenty of time, get on campus, and go see some of the staff on the sidelines before the game begins. But again, we'll see what happens with all that. But yeah, the playoff dependent part, Jeff, is a big one, because like Richard Anderson and Edna Carr, maybe the top defensive tackle in the country, high school teammate of Texas commit Hayward Howard. Anderson obviously is an LSU commit, and he's going to be a tough pull, but Edna Carr will probably play on a Friday night. Well, you're looking at a pretty quick flight or a 5-hour drive. Pretty quick flight being the one. So I think it's going to be a chore to get some of those kids on campus, but I think Texas has the time slot with this game to make it happen.
Gerry, you had a piece over on ontexasfootball.com, a really good piece actually to start the week, that, hey, who's Texas battling down the stretch? You've got a list of Texas commits, Texas targets in the class of 2026. At the top of the target list is Jaylen Lot, the 4-star wide receiver, 4-star plus wide receiver out of Frisco Panther Creek. Gerry, what's the latest going on with Jaylen Lot right now?
Yeah, look, I think this kid, it's pretty obvious he's going to sign with Oregon or Texas. And Chris Jackson was by the school last Thursday. It's interesting when you start to put this thing together. Texas and Lot have been talking. There's been a lot of communication since that early season visit to Austin. Oregon's fighting like heck to hold on to him. The NIL, I don't think, while Oregon's a little bit higher, I don't think that will be the deciding factor. I think this is purely going to come down to where Jaylen Lot wants to be, close to home or in Eugene, Oregon at this point. But what was interesting is Chris Jackson went by the school Thursday. Well, Sark and Chris Gilbert were already up in DFW going to other schools, right? So I think Chris Jackson went by to see Jaylen Lot, kind of chop it up with him. That conversation obviously went well, because Sark went to his game Friday night. Had that not gone well, there was a lot of other places Sark could have gone on Friday night. So I think that's telling as to Lot's sincere continued interest in Texas. I think this one's a coin flip, toss-up. I could see him ending up at either place. I do think there's been growing confidence on the Texas side, but what is that worth in today's day and age of recruiting? Not that much.
CJ, we've already hit on a couple of these guys. Max Wright, we talked about last week with SMU making a push. We talked about as far as Texas getting on. We talked about a number of DBs. Jamaria Carlton's name's been thrown around. Anything, CJ, grabbing your attention right now as we head toward that time? Was once Thanksgiving gets here, that's really when you get that push to signing day kicks in.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen Texas be uber aggressive at positions of need in that month leading up to signing day. We're entering that phase of the cycle at the moment. Texas also just had a defensive line commit reopen and, leave the class. Where do they go? Is it Richard Anderson? Do they circle back to Jamion Winfield, in which Texas stopped by at Richardson a week ago? We'll see. But right now, that's one for me that I've got circled. Kendall Gerville, obviously being one of the other big three that we've continued to monitor here. But look, Richard Anderson for me is one that I've seen in person, much like you have, Jerry. He's a little different when it comes to moving off the ball. That would be a huge, huge win for Texas to get him on the campus because, again, this is one in the LSU Baton Rouge community where it's very difficult once you've given your pledge to want to go anywhere else given that community pride. But that defensive line spot is one that I have circled thinking, where might they go moving forward?
Yeah, and Jeff, Texas may as well just set up shop in LSU recruiting meetings right now, right? I mean, Briston Martinez at East Ascension in Gonzales, Louisiana. Man, why I'm on my car, you'll find out. But Briston Martinez, I mean, Texas has got him on campus shortly after Brian Kelly was let go. He's scheduled to be back for an official visit November 22nd. If I'm a college coach, I'm setting up shop in that LSU recruiting meeting right now. And just tell Frank Wilson, I'm here for the same reason you are. I'm seeing how many of these guys you can hold on to. But Texas is after a few committed to LSU, including Briston Martinez, Richard Anderson, and Yvonne Finney, the corner out of Chatsworth, Sierra Canyon.
Yeah.
Jerry, we'll wrap this up with some hoops talk. Joe Sterling and Bo Ogden in the fold. Actually, we had Joe Sterling on Texas basketball last week, so check that out if you haven't already. But Austin Goosby is going to make his decision on Friday. Cameron Williams still with the decision to make. Jerry, where are things at as Sean Miller's first signing period gets started this week?
Yeah, man, no pressure at all. I mean, BYU has a massive NIL deal out to Austin Goosby. And I think all things equal, Austin Goosby prefer to be in Texas, go to University of Texas, play basketball at Texas. Obviously, his brother is the left tackle at Texas, but BYU's making this a tough closeout for Texas. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, that is real NIL opportunity at BYU, and we're talking big money, Howe. So if Austin Goosby, not that Texas isn't competitive, but it's maybe a double situation almost. So, I mean, that's a big number to turn down for a kid that's ranked anywhere from 25 to 40 in the country in that class. So I think all things equal, Austin prefers Texas. We'll see where that goes Friday. Cameron Williams, the 5-star power forward out of Phoenix St. Mary's. If you were making me put a bet out there, I'd bet on Duke because I think with Boozer going into the top 3 picks of the NBA draft, that's very inviting for a kid that can look at Duke and say, man, I could be an instant impact player at Duke. Same with Arizona with Koa Pete, but I hear it's more of a Duke-Texas battle. I don't want to sit here and say Arizona has no chance for a kid from Phoenix St. Mary's when they're in the final 3, but I've heard more Duke-Texas chatter, but it's the same thing with Arizona. Koa Pete is going to leave and be a first-round pick, barring a major change. So those programs look very inviting to a guy ranked in the top 5 that could see himself having that type of freshman impact. Texas, I mean, Matas Voki-Titus is likely back. Nick Cody. I mean, there's some pieces. Dalen Swain may be back. We'll see what the NBA draft looks like for him. So there's a lot more pieces that are potentially back at Texas. So you kind of have to sift through that a little bit more so than it's pretty cut and dry at Duke and Arizona right now. Their 2 4s, their freshman 4s who are stars, are going to be leaving and going to the NBA draft.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. Jerry, CJ, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to our good friend Mark Saunders, Allstate, for sponsoring it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, you want more recruiting intel, you can get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our recruiting coverage all year round. For Jerry, for CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.